Welcome to the Soul Revolution Tribe podcast, where we share stories, laughs, and even a few tears, but always a good time. We are about depth and real raw sharing through soul conversations and medicine. We are learning to find ourselves again and to be an unstoppable force of nature, ready to break down the constructs and rebuild them with love and acceptance at its core. We are the new world. Welcome, May, to the podcast. I'm so excited that you are here. One of my very dearest friends. So excited to share your wisdom.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I just love you. I love you in a podcast.
Yeah, well, I just am envisioning like what I wanted this season to be and the people that I wanted to bring on and that are true wisdom keepers. And like instantly I was like, I have to have May on here. And so I wanted to start out by asking you, so you have your business, Luxuriously Fierce. So what is the true meaning of Luxuriously Fierce to you?
If only that were as simple as it sounds. Well, the bottom line, Luxuriously Fierce means to me to figure out what it is that you desire, which is a journey in itself. But figuring out what it is that you desire in this lifetime, what it is that you truly want from this lifetime, what luxury really looks and feels like for you, and fiercely going after that, which is unapologetically, without justification or explanation to other people, trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, and just knowing that everything is divine. Everything.
I love that. That unwavering trust moving forward in yourself.
Yeah. Unwavering. And I have a poem that I wrote. It was a download channel, whatever you want to call it. And I do share it quite often on my Instagram page, but it says, her roots were so deep, she never wavered, even in the roughest of storms. And that embodies Luxuriously Fierce to me, where you are so connected to what I call your capital S self, which means your higher self, intuition, guide, source, divine, whatever term you resonate with. You're so connected to that version of you, to that luxury, to those desires, that you don't waver.
I love that. It's so beautiful. Oh, I just like taking that in for a moment here. Like unwavering popped in my head, and then instantly I knew that there's a reason, and that needed to come.
Yes, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a poem.
Oh, I love it. So share a little bit about your journey, how you got to become Luxuriously Fierce, and what soul medicine came through to help you get that way along the way.
It's been a journey. Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think that Luxuriously Fierce is ever something that it's not a checkpoint, right? It's something that you feel, it's something that you know within, and it's, at every level of expansion and evolution that I move through, unlocks something new in my Luxuriously Fierce and what that looks and feels like for me, right? And so I don't like to think of it as a checkpoint, or that I am Luxuriously Fierce, or that I have reached Luxuriously Fierce. I am Luxuriously Fierce because I am, because I exist.
Yes.
And so simple as that, you are Luxuriously Fierce because you exist. But, my journey started out much like everyone else's, where I followed all the rules and I stuffed myself in all the boxes and, stayed in the straight and narrow lines of the road. I did what I was supposed to do, in air quotes, supposed to do, right? And it was really like in the continuous crumbling of all of that, continuous crumbling of the jobs and the relationships and the everything, all of it, right? The continuous crumbling of me, that I was like, there has to be something else. There has to be something more. And so I started making decisions because I wanted to, right? And really, that the first decision that stands out to me in doing that is moving to Montreal and going to get my master's degree. I have a master's degree. I don't use it. I don't use it. I had always, my whole life, wanted to move to Montreal. I'd always wanted to live there. And in that particular season of my life, I couldn't justify, I was still justifying and rationalizing everything. I couldn't rationalize a move to Montreal without a reason, right? I couldn't rationalize leaving my family, leaving the friends that I have here, the relationships that I had here. I couldn't justify any of it. And so I applied to school
You
and
created that opportunity. You manifested that to
yeah,
make it feel okay.
yeah. And it's so funny that you say that because I applied to McGill. I went to McGill University, and I also applied to a local university. And not to knock one over the other, but comparatively, McGill is ranked one of the world's top university, right? And this other university is not, shall we say. And I was rejected from that university. And I got that rejection letter. And I remember going, there's no way I got into McGill. If I got rejected from this other university, there's no way I got into the world's top. No way.
And that's
I was
exactly it.
wrong.
Like you're like, I'm not gonna give myself any other option. Like this is where I'm going.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's a good point. That's exactly what it boiled down to, is that if I had the option to stay locally, I probably would have,
Mhm.
just out of
Obligation or like
Montreal, that when you could stay here, the whole
familiarity. Like you always say, the
exactly.
familiar zone.
Exactly. Staying in that familiar zone, moving to Montreal meant the end of several relationships, of, a romantic relationship, a few friendships. It meant leaving my family, but I mean, not leaving them. They're
Yeah.
here, and like,
The distance
um,
though, the distance, the change.
yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I went to McGill, and I studied there for 2 years. And don't I love school. Okay, I love learning. I love all the expansion that comes with it. Like, and people were, why do you want to get a master's degree? Why do you want to do this? What will that give you? What job can you do when you have this degree? And I'm like, I just want to go. I just want it. I want it for myself. This is something I've always wanted. And at the same time, there was also this like deep knowing within me that my next thing was there. And I
Mhm.
didn't know what that was at the time. Looking back, it's so obvious. But at the time, I didn't know what that was. And so, how do you explain that to people? How do you say to someone, I just know that I need to be there? I just
Just like
know
that.
that's the
And
next
knowing
step.
that
I know,
that's
right? Just
okay.
like that. That's
That's
exactly how you
medicine in
say it.
itself. Like giving yourself permission that I don't need to know all the answers. Like that's
Yeah.
how I grew up too. Like I have to know, you have to have XYZ explanation, and
Mhm.
you have to have it all mapped out. And really you can just go and trust that intuition that nudges that says this is just where I'm supposed to be. I
Yeah.
love
And that's exactly it. At the time, I did not know that. I was not not anywhere near the level of expanded or on my spiritual path as I am now. And while I was in university, I got to create and carry out my own, basically like a master's thesis project. And I started creating journaling prompts and teaching yoga and mindfulness to kids in school. And so then I started creating resources for teachers to implement in their classroom without taking away, time and resources and things. Teachers are swamped as it is. And so what I wanted was to create and help teachers create a space in their classroom where they and the kids could slow down, come back to themselves, reconnect. And that's what I did for a while. And I started doing journaling prompts, and then I did that and moved into journaling for adults. and my brand at that time was called Wolf and Whimsy. Luxuriously Fierce came to me in a download. It was a very clear message. This is your name. This is your Instagram handle. This is your website domain. Like, this is it. And it was probably about a year before I actually changed my Instagram handle from Wolf and Whimsy to Luxuriously Fierce, because I could feel the power that Luxuriously Fierce held. I knew it was big. At the time, it felt too big for me. I didn't know if I could hold it. And looking back, I don't think I would have held it that well. It would have been a much, much steeper learning curve for sure. Um, but yeah, I changed the Instagram handle, shifted a few things around. I still talk about journaling. I still teach journaling. I still, use it in my programs and all that kind of thing. But I've also expanded into other things like Reiki and Akashic readings and all that, all the other stuff.
I love
But
it.
yeah, that's a little bit how Luxuriously Fierce came to be.
And I love that. It's like you allowed yourself to really tap into that multidimensional. Like I don't have to just pick one path like society sometimes tells you like you have to decide right now. You get out of
Mhm.
high school, you got to decide what you're going to do with the rest of your life right in this moment and you're like I don't want to fail. Like that's for me. Like that's what it is. Like I hope I pick the right thing. Like I don't want to fail and you have to have everything mapped out. And it's also a control thing. Like I don't know for you, but like that's for me. I
Yeah.
feel like I have more control when I have it all pictured. And then my husband always says like I'm the definition of the Harry Potter movie where like Hermione plans everything, and then that quote I don't think it's Ron, like we plan, we get there, all hell breaks loose.
Yep.
He goes, so you got to let go
That's
of the
right.
plan. Like you can have the plan, but it's gonna be loose because it's gonna totally divert. And
Yeah.
that's like literally life. That's totally how life really is. And knowing how to go with the flow and not get it so overwhelmed when it doesn't
Yeah.
show up exactly how in my logical brain I mapped it out to be.
And we're really not taught how to navigate those ebbs and flows, or really what to do when all hell breaks loose, right? And like you said, we're in high school, in 12th grade, you're a senior in high school, you're 17, 18, going on 18. And when you're in high school, you have to raise your hand and ask to go to the bathroom and decide your whole life. What college are you going to go to? What university are you going to go to? What are you going to study? What's your career going to be? Meanwhile, you're raising your hand to ask to go to the bathroom.
So hypocritical.
Like, really? Someone make it make sense, please. Um,
Especially
yeah.
when you don't even know yourself yet.
Hmm.
Everyone tells you who you are at that point. Like you
Yeah.
have to go through this whole new journey of figuring out who am I without all the other like people telling me what I need to be and what I have to do and all of that and quieting all that noise.
Yeah. And that requires making mistakes, air quotes, mistakes. That
Yeah.
requires the ebbs and flows. That requires the hills and the valleys. That requires all hell breaking loose.
And being okay with not being perfect.
Yeah.
That was definitely a chapter in my book of it's okay. Imperfect is okay. Imperfect is perfectly perfect.
Yeah. I think I've had a few chapters like that. I think probably still a few more left, but
Oh yeah. It's more or
generally,
less that's the
generally a
journey.
good
It's like
overview.
going up the mountain and you keep coming past the same type of lessons. It's
Mhm.
just they have a little different resonance every time you get there. It's like okay, you don't have as much power and control over me as you
Yeah.
used to when I was younger.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it comes back to your roots. Your roots are so deep, you never waver, right? Even in the storm. And when you really know yourself, when you really dig deep and you dive in and you really figure that out and strip everything that you know to be true away, leave everything that you know to be true behind, and really figure out who you are and come into that, step into that, allow yourself that space to become, you don't waver when the storm hits.
I love it. It's just like I just got the image of like the clay or not clay, they're like marble sculptures and how you like chip away and then you create this beautiful
Mm,
masterpiece that's always been there. It's always
yeah.
there. You're just stripping back and you're trying to figure out who that true essence is.
Yeah, exactly. I
It's,
love
I'm
that.
very
That's
visual
exactly what it's
person.
like. You're a freaking marble statue. Like,
Yes. Oh, and that just like brought up like even that, like the journey of going through and realizing like it's okay at all the stages. Like the
mhm,
masterpiece isn't fully like shown, and some people would look at it as flaws, but really there's no flaws. All there is beauty. Just like a child, like I was sharing with you earlier, like my kids, like I love the lens of the world they look through, because we can see a crack in something and they see so much story to it, like so
yeah.
much. It's not a flaw to them, it's a wonder, and like I wonder how this got here and what it's creating and like the story that it carries. And I just love that, and I try to take that lesson in, because my kids are my biggest teachers, into life too, and look at everything as a wonder. I always have had that questioning mind. It's just the remembrance of come back to those roots, come back to looking at the beauty of everything, and not so worried about the perfection and the people pleasing, and knowing that everything's unfolding the exact way it needs to unfold, and you get to go with the flow. That's okay. Like you're gonna hit bumps, that's
hmm
life. It's how we deal with those bumps is the biggest part. Do we
Yeah.
let those waves drown us, or do we learn how to dive under them and pop back up?
Only you get to decide.
And there's times where I felt like I was drowning. I forgot
Which is
how
fair.
to swim for a minute there, I think. And then I was like, oh wait, I can stand up and I'm not even like I'm above the water. But
Yeah, it's
that's
only ankle deep.
yeah. It's the perception though, I think. That's the biggest thing, is
Absolutely.
like if you're told that you're overwhelmed and things like that, in the capacity, and the world's telling you like piling things on, and you forget you're only in ankle deep water. Like you're pushing your face in the water, but you have control. You can breathe at any time. You just have to sit back and give yourself the space to integrate and reflect of what's going on and how you want to move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to have multiple tools at your disposal, right? Like coming back to what you said earlier
Mhm.
about how we're taught just to have one thing, like one plan and stick with it. Or even in this spiritual space, I used to only teach journaling. I used to only do journaling. And I think that that was also a piece that held me back from shifting from Wolf and Whimsy to Luxuriously Fierce, is that Wolf and Whimsy, and my kids brand is called Wolf and Whimsy Kids, right?
Mhm.
And it has like these cute little wolf characters. Like it's very cute. And so of course my adult brand was named Wolf and Whimsy because of everything that I'd created under Wolf and Whimsy Kids. And I was really afraid to shift into Luxuriously Fierce because I knew that it was bigger than journaling.
Mhm.
I knew that there was more there and I didn't know what that was at the time. And I mean, it's scary. I'm not going to tell you that it's not. I would never ever say that. I would
And
never
the
lie to you.
potency,
Um,
of like you feel all the potential and what this is gonna be. And like there's points like part of us is like, whoa, who am I to deserve this? Can I handle this? And
yeah,
it's like coming back and making peace with those parts of like, yes, this is what this was ours. This is ours. We get to choose it, and we can work through it. And it's gonna be scary, and we're gonna walk hand in hand and go through it. I love
yeah. And there are pieces too, like when you are comparing yourself to other people, or I think a big thing for me too was, well, I've already done all this work through journaling and with journaling, and now I'm supposed to expand into something else.
it.
Like, yes, yes, you are.
Yep.
That's it. You are. And yeah, walking with your ego and that fear and not letting it hold you back. And I always say this, we talk about this all the time, but I'll say it again here, that your ego is a part of you, that fear is a part of you. It's literally embedded in you. It's a piece of your heart, a piece of your soul, and you push it away. We
You
push
can't
past the ego,
reject a part of yourself.
yeah, and you reject a part of yourself in doing that. And I use this analogy all the time too, is like if you're in a relationship with someone, you would never, hopefully, push past them all the time, not talk to them, don't ever let them know like what's going on or what's happening in your life. You don't just barrel past them all the time and then kind of fill them in later.
Yeah.
right?
And not listen to them
Listen to 'em.
and let them be heard and their fears acknowledged and feel that with
Exactly.
them and say it's okay to feel that. Like we
Yeah.
all have those stages, but you're not alone in that. And we can decide, we have a deciding point, a pivotal point. Do we allow that fear to hold us back, or do we use
Mhm.
it to fuel us and step into that unknown? Yeah,
Yeah.
the unknown is scary as hell, but there's so much you can achieve and gain from that as well. You can be in the same place and in that stagnancy, or you can step out into the unknown. And like I said, the wave might knock you over, but you always be able to get back up.
Yeah. Exactly. And for me, something that's been really helpful, and maybe that's helpful for someone who's listening, but whenever I think of the word unknown, right, you're going into unknown, sort of venturing into this new space that is unfamiliar, right? Unknown. I always think I am the unknown
Absolutely.
because you are, right? This version of you that you don't yet know, this version of you that you've not stepped into or embodied. That's what this unknown is, right? And so for me, it's been really helpful to think of it that way
I love that.
because I'm safe with me.
Hmm.
And so when you're venturing into the unknown, if you are the unknown and you are safe with you, then you are safe in that unknown.
I love that. I love that. That really hits home. And really, like, that was my theme of all 2022, is really finding the safety in me and the
Mhm.
safety and expansion. Because if I don't feel safe in me and grounded in me and create those roots that can be unwavering, how do I expect to stay rooted when the world is throwing things at me and I get to choose the lens I look through, and the old me would be overwhelmed and shut down and the fear would take over. Instead, I can calm that anxiety, calm those waves, and know that it's okay to move forward.
Yeah.
Like the unknown is my friend. It's just like looking at a kid lens. It's like we're going on a secret adventure and we don't
Yeah.
know what it's going to unfold, and it's
I
going to
love
be
that.
beautiful no matter what happens. Like, once again, you have the plan, all plans, everything, the hell breaks loose, but still there's so much beauty in that adventure. And if it was all picture perfect the way it is, like, I wouldn't take the same lessons away and it wouldn't have the same feel. Like, the unknown is the beauty part, the unexpected, the surprise. Those all can be enjoyable things too if we allow it to be.
Yeah. You get to choose, right? You get to choose how you experience something.
I love it. So what other, like, so we were talking about tools, like what are some of the tools that came to you at different points? For me, I feel like I have such a massive toolbox because at different points of life, those tools resonate more than
Hmm.
at other times. So it's like I'm learning this tool and it may not be what I need right in this moment, but it may be what I need tomorrow, or it was what I needed yesterday. And you still always have access to that. So what are the tools that you found most helpful along your journey?
I mean, I agree with everything you just said. And this is why I like having a toolkit, right? Or a
Mhm.
toolbox, you know, a pile of different tools, right? For those times where you're like, oh, I don't know that journaling will work today. Like, I'm going to do this instead. But for me, writing is my thing. It's always been my thing. When I was a kid, I had a journal. I used to write stories and poems. I used to give them as gifts to people.
I love
We still have them. Like my grandma still has one framed in her home, um, that I wrote when I was like, I'll say 11. I think I was in like fifth or sixth grade. Um, my mom used to have my stories and poems like published in the local paper and the local community page. Writing has always been my thing. It just is, right? And so the biggest tool that you will probably use the most is the thing that you've done since childhood, right? We have this sort of tendency to, when we get into adulthood, we're like, oh, well, we can't do that anymore. We can't journal anymore. I don't have time for that. Whatever your tool was, whatever your safe space was as a child, we don't bring it with us into adulthood for whatever reason. And
it. Grow up.
It's
That
yeah.
turns to grow up.
Let's grow up. Like, don't grow up. Bring it with
those,
you.
those things are what we have to remember. Like we have that inner child in us, and that's what soothes our
Yeah.
inner child. And so when we can bring those back in adulthood, it's like we soothe the nervous system so we can actually
Yeah.
make peace and come through and allow those things space that scare us. Space, because if we don't calm the nervous system, we don't have space to face it head on.
Yeah.
We don't have the capacity to feel any more than what we're feeling right now, so we have to calm the nervous system of what it's feeling now so we can deal with what we felt before and where it comes and look at it from all different angles to move forward. And that's healing for me. Is like I always say, like shadow work, if you want to call it that, or whatever you want to resonate with, but the past healing is like I go through and I find those little gremlins, and really, like when I give them time to be seen, heard, and felt, I'm like dusting off the layers, and I'm taking all the layers off this little dust bunny, and I realize it's a beautiful part of myself that just I repressed, and it didn't feel heard, felt, loved, belonged. And
Yeah.
once you can make peace with that, like you come back to your wholeness. It's like a remembrance piece. It's not anything we have to learn. It's really like there's nothing we can do per se. It's like coming back home to ourselves and coming back to that wholeness, that it's like it's always there, just like the sculpture. Like even when it's a block of marble, it's always
Yeah.
there. It's just you have to chisel away and figure out what is conditioning, what is story, and what is my true story. Who am I
Yeah.
at the core of everything?
I love that. It's so true. And that's your biggest tool is going to be that thing that's at your core, right? That core piece of you. And then from there, I mean, I'm a certified yoga instructor, like yoga and meditation, mindfulness instructor. I did that for a couple of years and I still practice myself. I don't teach anymore. And then I started learning about Reiki. And then, of course, an opportunity presented itself for me to go to Okinawa, which is the birthplace of Reiki. And I became Reiki attuned in Okinawa, in the birthplace of Reiki. So I did that. And then just recently, I've really tapped into the Akashic records and opening the records for myself and for other people. And just every layer of you unlocks something else, right? And I think back to like the progression of all of that, where I was going through a really messy time in my life, and so I started going to the gym every day as an avoidance tactic to avoid going home because I did not want to go home. And I started going to the gym. I don't like the gym, so I found myself on the mat, just air quotes stretching all the time. So then I thought, well, I'm going to do a yoga teacher training. I'd never been to a yoga class in my life. Did a yoga teacher training. Then I taught yoga mindfulness in schools to kids, to teachers. And that's what I did for my master's degree in Montreal. That's where my first book was born from. My first creations were born from. Then I taught overseas, I taught abroad. And from there, I went to Okinawa. And like, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Beautiful journey that unfolds that you
yeah,
never, that little girl that sat, like that little high schooler that sat that, and like, did you ever envision that this is how it was all going to unfold?
no, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. I I don't even know if I had a vision for myself when I was that young. I think I checked off the box. Like where I'm from, it's very don't get an arts degree. Arts degrees are stupid, so do a science degree. So when I first went to university, after straight out of high school, I started in the science program. Very quickly realized it was not for me, and then shifted into arts, and that's where I started learning about psychology, and that's what my master's degree is in, is educational psychology. I love psychology, and really like your intuition, the energetics of the Akashic records and Reiki and yoga and mindfulness and meditation, like all of that has really strong ties to psychology. So
Mhm.
again, we've gone full circle here.
It's all preparing you. So you say you don't use your degree, but you do. You do.
Well, not in school, but
Not in
yes.
the traditional way, but
Yeah,
you do incorporate though that
I
learning,
do.
and that's the same way I went to med or pre-med, and then I went into nursing and all of that. And yes, maybe I'm not practicing the traditional ways, but I pull all that knowledge and those pieces that I've gained into my
Mhm.
work, which makes it just that more uniqueness. Like there's nobody else that has the same package of lessons and wisdom than we do ourselves. And that's why there's certain people that will resonate with us. I love that. So, what would you say to somebody if they're like, I don't remember the tools? Like, I blocked out, I don't remember the tools in my
Mhm.
childhood. Where do I begin?
With your journal. For me, it's always with a journal, right? And that can literally be writing a journal entry that starts with, I don't remember what tools I had when I was a kid. And just letting that unfold, right? Shadow work is another really big, really powerful tool, something I've done myself. I don't teach it myself, I don't do that myself, but I've practiced with some incredible people. Um, even an Akashic reading can help you tap into whatever tool you had at your disposal as a kid. And even deeper than that, even wider than that, can help bring something to light that you did in a past life
Mhm.
that maybe needs to come forward now. Right? There's so much of ourselves to uncover. We're never done, and it's so much fun, honestly. I'm
Yeah.
at the point now where I'm like, "Ooh, I feel this fear coming up." Like, "Ooh, I see what are we tapping into today?"
It's play with it. Like that's my biggest thing
Exactly.
that comes to mind. Like when it comes to it, like if something piques your interest and you're like, I have no clue what the Akashic records are, I have no clue what she's talking about. What is that? Start looking into it. See what it's all about. If it's drawing to you, that's your intuition of saying like, hey, maybe this will resonate and this will be the next piece. That's how my journey was all the time too. Like I wanted to do breath work, but I did like I was looking at more of a traditional training, and then all of a sudden shamanic breath work just came to me. I didn't
Mhm.
research shamanic breath work, it found me. And I feel it's the same way, is just go with curiosity of
Yeah.
whatever that is, and really that radical honesty with ourselves.
Yeah, and that's really it, right? Slowing down, recognizing the areas where we're not happy, recognizing what boundaries need to be set, filling your own cup, trusting yourself. And yeah, following those intuitive nudges, trusting yourself to do so, and trusting, knowing that it will lead you to what's meant for you. Like, at the time, I would never have imagined that doing a yoga teacher training would put me here. And that was, I mean, now when I look back and I see the breadcrumbs of my journey, it's incredible, all the connections. And of course you don't see it in the moment, but it's incredible.
Yeah, it's just trusting ourselves, slowing down, and learning to listen.
Yeah.
Having that stillness to be able to actually hear. Like I don't know if you can, well, obviously the listeners can't. I have this little picture that my aunt gave me, and it says, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. And there's
Yeah.
so much truth and beauty in that. Is when
Yeah.
you silence the noise around us and the programs and the conditioning and everything, and you really decide what is mine and what has been told to me, and do I want to keep that as my truth, because that's we have that power. We create our own reality. So when we decide, is this truth, like, or is this not, and I'm gonna believe this, then your whole reality shifts, the whole way you look at the world shifts, and it's just those
Yeah.
baby steps.
Yeah. And something I always say is, in stillness, I found my fire. And, or, in similar fashion, fires don't start in the wind, they start in the stillness, right? And so when you slow down, when you turn inward and you find that place of stillness, the fire will burn. it will get bigger and bigger and glow brighter and brighter.
On that desire, and it just that what came with me, and like finding the stillness to ask, in the give yourself permission to ask, what do I truly want? We so focus on what we don't want and what we don't like, and we don't like this feeling, and I don't like this, and I don't want that. What do I want? And
Mm-hmm.
let's paint a clear picture of that, and let that vibrate through our body versus what we don't want, so then we can attract what we truly do want and desire, and make action steps towards that, not out of fear because I don't want this, but the passion of this is what I truly desire in life. And once
Yep.
again, full circle, coming back and fiercely going after it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that so much.
Me too. It's my favorite thing.
I just love you. You are an
I
incredible human
love
being.
you. Thank you. So are you.
So much wisdom.
Even, I mean, even meeting one another, it was so, if you look at the breadcrumbs that like brought the two of us together, just like, it's incredible to look back and see the pattern and be like, I would never have met Jackie if this thing didn't happen, if I didn't join that program and I didn't meet this person who then introduced me to Jackie. And, it.
And if I didn't reach out in that one message, this random
Mhm.
stranger, and if I didn't comment and make them feel felt, like I would have never got this opportunity. And this may have not turned out the way we envisioned it, but it made the connections of the people that we need. It's like the web of life is so magical and so beautiful, and there's so much gratitude and abundance. Like when I step back and think about like all of the connections and the pieces of like, we could have met in other different areas, like we were in the same space, but we never interacted.
Yeah.
We never had the opportunity to see each other. And there's a reason why we are best friends. Like there's a reason why it came.
Yeah. Right.
We found each other in the exact moment that we needed. And it was meant to be that we get to
It's
expand
so,
together.
yeah, it is so funny to like think back to how close we were, like before we met, how close, like our paths were parallel to one another for however long, and we never crossed paths, of course, until divinely timed, right? Coming back to what I said earlier, everything is divine.
Absolutely. And we might have not been in the same space, like to be able to be where we're at right then. Not that we wouldn't like each other, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I just remember the first thing that you said, like you heard my voice on the little memo, and you're like, whoa, she's bubbly. And then you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna like her. And then you're like, she's like the perfect bubbly yet grounded. I remember having that conversation. She's like, and you're like, I just adore you. But at first I was like, I don't know what to think, because that's a lot of energy.
I don't do bubbly. Oh man, I forgot about that conversation. That was a real conversation where I was like, I don't know. I don't know about you.
But I just loved it, because you're like, at first I thought you were like this really bubbly, but the more than I allowed the space for you to talk, like you have this groundedness. She's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like you're floating but grounded at the same time.
Yeah. I still don't know how to describe it.
On my
That's
own.
that's the best I can do. You're like a balloon that has like one of those weights at the bottom of it. A helium balloon that does not float away. It's weighed down. Oh, it's all divine.
All the pieces. And then that's just inspiration for other people too, is like, you're exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't feel like it. You're exactly where you need to be, and the right people, the right situations are going to come as long as you open yourself up to see it. It's kind of those like you trust yourself, and you co-create with God, the universe, whatever you resonate with, and trust that it's coming, and look for the opportunities. It's kind of like that parable where they say like the guy's like God's gonna save me. It's like flooding, and he's on the roof, and like a rowboat comes by. No, God's gonna save me. Then like a ship comes by. No, God's gonna, helicopter comes, and then he's like, God, why didn't you save me? And he's like, well, I sent you all these things.
Yeah.
It's the same.
All these opportunities.
Yeah, you gotta be looking for the opportunities, and the new ways to shift and pivot.
Hmm. And opportunities will rarely show up in the way that you think they will.
Mm-hmm. And just have
Rare.
that curious mind of like, well, that's interesting. Why this just happened to come. And now I laugh when things like that come, like the ironic, like little things that pop in, and I'm like, oh, I see that. The little messages.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just like, you don't have to take every opportunity that comes your way, because some of them won't be aligned and some of them will be. And that's where trusting yourself and really being well rooted and knowing yourself and what it is that you desire, that's where all that comes in. Because there will be opportunities that come your way that you don't want,
Mhm.
right?
It's kind of like a
Or,
test of
yeah.
like, are you going to choose you? Are you going to
Mhm.
choose what everyone tells you you're going to be? And like
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've learned on my journey is because I lived my life a lot for other people versus myself, and I didn't really know what I truly wanted. I knew what everyone else wanted for me, and so I had to step back and say, is this really going to get me closer to what I truly desire, or am I doing it out of obligation?
Yeah.
Or because it's what's expected. And if as soon as it's an obligation or expected and it doesn't like feel good in my body, then I'm like, nope, this is not for me. And if it's meant to be, it will come back. It will come back around. But this is a not right now situation.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're like glowing right now. Everyone can't see it, but like right now the light is like hitting her like so perfectly, and I love it.
The sun is shining directly onto my face. Yes. I
Oh.
love it. It's warm. Makes me all warm and fuzzy inside. But yeah. And I just love, like, I love these conversations because they're so reflective for me. It's like spoken word journaling.
Yeah,
Really is
it
what
truly
it is.
is.
Yeah, it really is. And now I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, like, wow, I've come a long way. And it's something that I know that. But when you actually take the moment to sit down and,
And express it. It's like
yeah,
one thing
express it
knowing
and
with your
reflect
brain, but
on it.
allowing yourself to truly express it and say it out loud and claim it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is my journey. This is where I've been and this is where I was. This is where I am now. And I'm so
Mhm.
excited to see where I'm going in the future.
Yeah. And I've had many different versions of luxuriously fierce, even when it wasn't something that had yet dropped in. But, looking back now, I'm able to see where and in what instances of my life I figured out what I wanted and went after it.
I love that. And it also just reminded me as you said that, like, so say you're a type of person that, like, I don't write, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to write down. Do what we're doing right now, like do
Yeah.
a voice memo or hop on a video recording of some sort. I used to do that with my oldest when he was little, just to help him express his emotions. I'd put my computer up and so he could see himself and he talked to himself and just express what he's feeling, and then we'd put it in a file and no one would look at it, and then I'd allow him to delete it when he was done if he didn't want to look back at it.
Yeah.
Just to let it out, because that's the biggest thing is like, don't keep it all inside and bubbling
Hmm.
up. Let it come out and let it be expressed. And if you're embarrassed of it, and like, I know some people like, I don't want to journal all those deep, dark secrets. And I don't even want to like acknowledge it to myself. Let alone what if somebody found it, then burn it.
Yeah.
Do whatever you got to do, but it needs to come out. Otherwise it's stored in the body and then it's going to cause complications and stagnant energy that you don't want. And it's going to cause chaos. And you want to have that harmony and balance and flow into your life.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, journaling works for me and it might not work for you. And the way that I journal is through writing. Maybe you journal through speaking. Maybe it is voice memos. You get to decide what that practice looks like, right? Every practice that I have, everything that I do, like inside of Luxuriously Fierce, inside of Fierce Productions, where we do go into podcasting, in the app that I have, like everything that I have created is born from a version of me that needed the me I am now. And there are so many different tools. If it's not journaling, it's whatever your creative expression is, right? And you get to choose what that is. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's sculpting, maybe it's
Maybe it's just breathing. Maybe it's being in
building
nature.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just breathing. Maybe it's meditating. Maybe it I don't even know. Maybe it's walking out. It could be a
Maybe
million
it's
different.
being like a kid and like just playing and going to a swing set and swinging, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Looking
You
back.
get to decide what that is, and you get to do it every day. And it doesn't have to look the same every day. What matters is that you're showing up for yourself every single day. And we were talking about this earlier, where sometimes the things that bring you the most joy are not things that you have the capacity for every single day, right? I love sitting down in conversation. I love recording podcast episodes. And yet, at the end of this episode, I know that I'm just going to be so full of just energy and just like the feeling of what a beautiful conversation. And for me, that is when I step back and integrate things, right? And so if I'm continuously just having conversation after conversation after conversation after conversation, because it brings me joy, because I love it, because I love the connection, I'm going to get burnout real quick.
Yeah, you have to have that integrated. That's in all areas of life. Like as you say that, like even learning. People are like, I need the next piece of knowledge and I gotta get all this in. But you can take in the knowledge, but you need to embody it into the wisdom. Like if you don't
Yeah.
give your time to integrate it and really apply that, like you can have all the tools in the world, but if you don't know how to apply it and really use it as yourself, like you're not really taking that medicine. You're getting words and they're not really integrating into your
Yeah.
being and being able to apply that. And that's where it comes to like practice what you teach too. Like you can feel the difference of somebody that actually really embodies their work versus just here's some tools and I'm going to teach you, I'm going to throw information at you,
Hmm.
versus I've been there, I've done it, I know how it feels, and your experience is going to be different than mine, but I can still relate and hold space for whatever you're going through. And that's why the saying of you can only take somebody as far as you're willing to go, I believe there's a lot of depth and truth in that.
Yeah, I agree. And like this whole time we've been talking about having a toolkit, a toolbox of things that you do that bring you joy, of things that you do that fill your cup, that make you, turn inward, make you closer to you, your capital S self. But the reality is that you are the toolbox. You
Absolutely.
are the toolkit. Your body is that toolbox, and you get to drop in and say, what would feel good in my body today?
Yeah. And
What
you
would
don't
feel
have to
good
learn
in my
something new. It's
mind?
not something outside of you. You have it inside if you
Yeah.
allow yourself to listen and ask, like, what am I needing today?
Yeah, and that's it. What does my mind need? What does my body need? What does my soul need? Just yesterday, I mean, I love to walk. I walk far. It's about 12 kilometers. I don't know how many miles that is, but like 12 kilometers about every day. And I do it because I love it. Because I love being outside. I love the fresh air. I love being out in nature. The place where I walk is just like all trees and swamp, really. But yesterday I was feeling kind of tired. And so I didn't push myself to go for a walk, even though I enjoy walking,
Mhm.
right? Yesterday, filling my cup looked like yoga. It looked like sitting,
Yeah.
literally just sitting and doing nothing.
I love that you say that because I think a lot of people forget that just being in the moment and in the stillness is just as healing as going and working out, because you can push
Yeah.
yourself through that and you're just creating more stress hormone and you're adding to the issue versus allowing yourself the space to breathe and just be and in this present moment. Like that's what I ask, like what does my body need today? Like that's what I say, like how can I show up for you today? What
Yeah.
is going to serve you? And I do that with my mind and my emotions and my soul, and I ask that, and then those are like non-negotiables for me of whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It might be like I just need 5 minutes to sip on this tea and collect my thoughts and just be with here and just feel what I'm feeling in this moment and allowing myself space to do it.
Yeah.
I may have a go-go day, but I'm going to take those 5 minutes for me.
Make yourself a non negotiable.
Absolutely. Love that. So much beauty and wisdom coming through. I hope this resonates. I know it resonated with somebody, the right people that need it.
Mhm.
And is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up this episode? I feel complete and like overflowing right now.
Yes, I feel complete. I'm overflowing. I feel very excited for the people who listen to this episode because we say this all the time too. We talk about this all the time where, we don't steer conversations, or what
Mhm.
comes through because it's meant to come through for someone, right?
Somebody was needing to hear this in this exact
Yeah.
moment.
And yeah, even just today, I was saying, I'm glad I had channeled a message, and I channel these messages and I share them on social media without really, I don't know who they're for. I don't know who they influence. I don't know who they impact. And I trust that they're getting to the people who need them. Right.
Absolutely.
So that is what we just did here. And I love it so much. And
One
I
of my
love you
favorite
so
things
much.
in life. I love you so much. Well, thank you so much for having the time here to be sharing with all of us. And I'm going to make sure in the notes you'll see all her contact information. Check her out. You want this being in your life. I can tell you that very much. She is a true blessing in my life, and I'm just honored to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here and for opening your sacred podcast space for me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul Revolution Tribe and being part of our soul family. If anything in this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share your takeaways. You can find me on IG at Grow with Jackie B or on YouTube at Soul Revolution Tribe. I will see you next week for more soul conversations and medicine. Bye for now, and see you back soon.